Hey everybody, it's Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. Trump is about to speak from the White House. We don't know why he is speaking. He is speaking from the Oval Office apparently. This was not scheduled and they just announced he was speaking a short while ago. So we'll have to see what Trump has to say. Unscheduled remarks from the White House from President Trump any moment now. So I have no idea what he's talking about. I haven't seen what he's talking about, but we'll see. All right. Is everybody good? Can everybody hear me, see me? Testing 1, 2, 3. I jumped on the air really fast. Thank you. Special shout out to Kay. First person I heard this one, Kay messaged me, Kay called me right away. Said, hey, did you hear about this? So thanks, Kay. Thanks, PZ Papa Zulu, for the gift memberships. Okay, again, and they updated his schedule just a few minutes ago to say he's speaking at the White House. Hang on a moment here. I'm getting this ready for you. All right, we are ready. We're ready. Hold on. He's not speaking yet. I have not heard yet why he's speaking. Ooh, I'm not going to put my headphones on. I'm going to leave it like this. Not going to mess with anything. All right. I'm still looking. I thought maybe we'd get some sort of news why he's speaking, but I have not seen any reports. Maybe he'll speak about tariffs or something involving Ukraine. This was not scheduled. It was not scheduled. Hey, thanks PZ Papa Zulu for the gift memberships. Thank you Radio Chaos for your support. And Ian Anderson, thank you. I'm looking around. Again, he's speaking any moment now. It was supposed to be 11. It's 11:03. Could be anything. Our viewers, Red Squirrel 82, thinks he's considering sanctions on Russia. I have no idea. Maybe he is. I can't tell you. I haven't seen any reporting on what he's saying. This was just scheduled. Yeah, could be about what people are saying. Russia, Ukraine. Oh, did something just come out? Hold on a second. I jumped on the air, so I might have missed some reporting when we were coming on the air. Let's see. Anyways, it was unscheduled before. Will he take questions? I don't know. B&O News says that CNBC says that Trump will be talking about today's jobs report. That's what B&O News says. Let me see if I can find anything from CNBC. Thanks to the viewers for mentioning that. I haven't seen anybody else reporting that, so I don't know. I don't even see it on CNBC's webpage. So maybe he will be speaking about that. It's not officially announced by the White House. I haven't seen any other reports yet talking about it. I follow a lot of like White House reporters and stuff, and nobody has said anything. Well, whatever. Did CNN say job report stuff? Hold on a second here. But this was unscheduled. And they just scheduled it. Austin Batman says, why call a last-minute speech for that? Yeah, I don't know. Leonard82 disagrees. Leonard82 thinks it's about some sort of Iran thing. The White House sent out an email 40 minutes ago at 10:25 a.m. At 10:25 a.m., the White House sent out an email saying he's speaking at 11. That's how last minute it was. They didn't even put a topic on it. Could be about multiple things. You never know. You never know. Maybe he's going to announce 3 things. Who knows? Maybe he'll take questions. I'll show you what the email said. Hold on. This is what it says. Hold on a second here. It's very brief. See, the president delivers remarks. That's what it says. The president delivers remarks. Oval Office, 11 a.m. That doesn't tell you much. Let's see here. All right, I'm sorry. I'm literally have my eyes peeled. I don't literally have this. I'm literally just watching for it to start. The White House has not gone live on their website. Thank you to Lidwine, Elizabeth, Van Gambler, Harbord, Berserker, Wells 32, Really Now, Jim Eaton, Adrian Goodman, Bent Fork, Yul Young, Radio Chaos. Thank you. Van Gambler says special operation in Canada. I mean, I will say, like one of our viewers mentions, Lidwine Elizabeth said the Russian sanctions were in our news too. You can see here, AP had said, AP is reporting today, Trump considering pressure on Russia and seeking deal with Iran. President Trump said he's strongly considering sanctions and tariffs on Russia in hopes of forcing a settlement to the war in Ukraine. He also sent a letter to Iran's leaders seeking to negotiate a nuclear deal. I don't know if he's going to mention either of these things. He said, he said on his on social, said on True Social. He said on True Social. Let me show you here. Based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you. Is he going to say something about that? He posted that around an hour ago. So. Did they change it? I have not seen anything official from the White House on the time being changed of the remarks. So it was originally scheduled for 11. Reuters updated their timing to 11:15 for whatever that's worth. Now maybe they just automatically do that when it doesn't happen on time. So I have not seen any kind of official switch of when this is happening. The email went out at 10:25 that it was happening at 11. It's obviously not happening at 11 because it's 11:12 right now. Again, there's been no confirmation on what he's speaking about. As I mentioned, B&O News said that CNBC said he was speaking about the jobs report. I don't know if that's true. Sometimes when something like this happens, you just have all kinds of reports which all say the same thing. I'm not seeing like White House reporters say for sure what he's speaking about. So maybe he's speaking about multiple things. I don't know. Thanks, Jim Eaton, for your support. Really now, our viewer, thank you, thinks, given all the recent posturing by Iran, Egypt, and now Europe and Europe with Ukraine, and boots on the ground, UK, there are like 20 things he could announce. Trade issues, immigration, etc. Yeah, I mean, the tariff thing has been really big, Look, there's been a Middle East stuff, with Israel and Hamas and Gaza. He made a very threatening post to Hamas a couple days ago. Thank you so much to Unleashed Pokey Gamer for your support. He is not speaking yet. Hang on a moment here. Thanks so much to our moderators for being here. We have Janet B. moderating. We have Ruth Kafasi moderating. Thank you. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, thank you. Appreciate you moderating. We have Big Ball of Yarn, I got that fire. Papa Bear, Surly Dev on Twitch, thank you. Thanks, Pat the Weirdo, for your support on Twitch. who says, my bet is he signs an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. You know, he was supposed to do that yesterday, and then it didn't happen. Now, we haven't, the thing is, I will say this, it was already on his schedule to sign executive orders today, I believe. Yeah, there was already an item on his schedule at 2:30 p.m. to sign executive orders. So I don't know why they would switch that by 3.5 hours. And it's still on his schedule, by the way. They still on his schedule have 2:30 p.m. he signs executive orders. So I would think this is not an executive order thing, since they still have that item on his schedule. Thank you again, Pat the Weirdo. Thanks to our Facebook moderators too. I really should put on any moment. Well, again, it was supposed to be 11. It's now 11:16. So it really is at any moment. Well, I'm hearing two of myself. Thanks to Kay Lowry Body for modding. I appreciate it, Kay. Thank you. All right, hang on a moment. Sorry, and I keep looking around because I don't want to miss the start of it, but again, it's not live yet. I can tell you it's not live yet. I do know it's not live yet, but I'm looking. Now, there was a job report released. I haven't seen that. Yeah, I don't think there's any really reliable reporting on what he's speaking about. Let me just mention this jobs report if I can. But again, I wouldn't be so sure he's speaking about that. I mean, again, according to BNO, CNBC claimed he was speaking about it, but I haven't seen anyone else report that, any of the reporters I follow. Wall Street Journal said that the U.S. added 151,000 jobs last month, slightly below expectations. But they also said that the U.S. continued to generate jobs at a steady pace, offering reassurances that the labor market has remained relatively stable, but there were warning signs it could weaken. The unemployment rate rose to 4.1% from 4%. I mean, when I look at that from the Wall Street Journal, it doesn't sound like a huge deal. Certainly in the headline, it doesn't sound like a huge deal. Stock market, NASDAQ is down 0.69%. Dow Jones down 0.38%. It's been dropping a bunch. A lot of that has been attributed to the uncertainty over tariffs and the tariff policy. But again, would he come on to make a speech about that? Our viewer Eldo Itira thinks nothing changed much at jobs report. Again, I don't see anything obvious about it that says, oh, hold on a second. The White House has live on their channel. Thanks to the viewer for letting me know. Hang on a moment. Hang on. Where is here? Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I'm putting this on the screen for you. Look, we will begin shortly. I'm showing you. I mean, he could come and say something, and we're just like, why did he bother saying that? So that's true too. It's just, again, when I look at the headline in the Wall Street Journal about the job report and read the first paragraph of the article, it doesn't scream to me, oh, he's going to make unscheduled remarks from the White House about it. Eli Baker thinks it'll be about Iran deal economy and Hamas holding hostages. That's what our viewer Eli Baker thinks. One of our viewers thinks it's about Russia. J-Rad says, I think he's going to blow his own trumpet. Vicky thinks it's about Russia. But I will say, I mean, we've covered, you know, I feel like there were times when President Biden would speak and maybe President Trump before that. I've covered this type of thing, and it is regularly when this type of thing happens, by the time you get on the air, you've heard a lot about what he's going to speak about. That is not the case this time. A lot of times you'll have different reporters who are close to the White House, and they will have publicly said, oh, he's definitely speaking about this. Again, I heard CNBC said something about it, but I'm not sure. But I'm just not seeing right now lots of reports saying this is what he's definitely speaking about. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's still up in the air. You know, again, earlier today he had posted on his X account, his True Social account, that based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions on and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you. I mean, he just posted about that. A couple days ago, we have the whole tariff thing going on, where yesterday he said yesterday the White House announced that there would be no that he would be pausing a lot of the tariffs on Canada and Mexico until April 2nd. He posted back on 2 days ago, he said, Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose release all the hostages now and not later, and immediately return all the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. He said, this is your last warning. You know, that was 2 days ago. So we'll just have to see. Again, I'm looking at the stock market right now. It's not like a huge move today. Dow Jones down 0.5 point, NASDAQ down 0.75 point. You know, Dixie LaFleur says probably bombed someone, our viewer. She thinks maybe some kind of military thing happened and he's going to make some announcement about it. Thank you, Donna Smith, for the gift membership. Thank you, Missy Miss. Missy Miss says, she says that Canadian news says it'll be about tariffs. I haven't seen that myself. Thank you, Mitchell Pilot. Mitchell Pilot says, remember when Biden made unscheduled remarks after the special case against him was closed and he totally looked and acted 100 years old? That's what Mitchell Pilot says. I do remember covering that. I forget what that was. There was something when, was it when the special prosecutor said that Biden wouldn't be prosecuted for classified documents, and he made an unscheduled speech about that, and we covered it. I think that time, though, we knew what he was going to talk about, I think. Or it was pretty clear. I think it had been reported. Anyways. Thanks, Chat Always Wins, for your support. And Just News. Thank you, Just News. And Sarah777 for the gift memberships, and another drummer. Thanks for your support. Again, we're just waiting for this to start. It just says President Trump delivers remarks. About an hour ago, exactly 1 hour ago, the White House announced that he would be speaking at 11. This was unplanned. And still not exactly clear what he's speaking about. Maybe he's still deciding exactly what he wants to speak about. Oh, hang on a second. Thank you to Michael from BNO News mentioned that there's a reporter, Libby Dean from News Nation, said about a half an hour ago that Trump would be speaking on the jobs report. A White House official tells me, Libby Dean says. Now, I don't know if that's true. There's a world in which the White House is intentionally not saying or putting out something that he's not speaking about. So I don't know if that's true. It's a little weird if it's just about the jobs report, again, because I've seen a couple headlines about it. CNN called it mixed. The Wall Street Journal says said that the job report missed expectations but offered reassurance. So it, on the face of it, it doesn't seem like a huge thing either way. I'm not seeing headlines saying like, "Oh my gosh, shockingly bad jobs report" or "shockingly good jobs report." So maybe he will speak about it, but if he goes on to speak about the jobs report, to me, what he's really doing is trying to reassure the country on the economy, right? I don't think he's going to me, there's a bigger purpose if he's just talking about the jobs report. But I'm not sure about that. And I will say, again, while I've heard these two reports from a while back today that he's going to speak about the jobs report, there's a lot of reporters not saying anything about what he's speaking about. Yeah, see, and our viewer Hex D-Line messaged me, and Eamon Javers from CNBC. Oh, Eamon Javers of CNBC said 40 minutes ago, "I'm told President Trump will make remarks live about the jobs report." What it looks like to me, it looks like about last an hour ago or so, it looks like a White House official maybe talked to a couple reporters and told them this. Is that true? I don't know. I just don't know. Let me see if I have any other reporting for you. And you can see on your screen right now, it says, "We will begin shortly." There's a headline in the New York Times today saying, "Reversing course, Trump says he wants nuclear talks with Iran." So he could be saying something about that. Yeah, an AP said President Trump said he's strongly considering sanctions and tariffs on Russia in hopes of forcing a settlement of the war in Ukraine. He also sent a letter to Iran's leaders seeking to negotiate a nuclear deal. Trump says, where did he say this? Trump said in a Fox Business News interview today that he sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader seeking a new deal with Tehran to restrain its rapidly advancing nuclear program and replace the agreement he withdrew America from in his first term in office. Okay? So, is he going to say something about that? I could believe any of those topics would be the topic. Jim Sciutto of CNN said Trump today Trump in the Fox Business News interview said that that he believes he can negotiate an agreement with Iran that would be just as good as if you won militarily. Matt thinks the topic will be Iran. Any moment now, he will be speaking. Renee Sevier says, my guess is that Trump will try to get sympathy in some way. Dale Buddyman thinks it will be about multiple topics. NASDAQ is now down over 1% for the day. Dow Jones is down 0.7% for the day. Thanks, Galants, for your support. Sarah777, thanks again for the gift memberships. We are waiting for President Trump. Thanks, Jazzy Renee, for resubscribing on Twitch. At around 10:25 a.m., the White House suddenly announced that Trump would be speaking at 11 a.m. It is currently 11:32 a.m. There have been a couple reports claiming he's speaking about the jobs report, but we don't know if that's true. Checking out something else, too. Another story from today, the Department of Homeland Security says it is terminating a collective bargaining agreement with tens of thousands of TSA workers. I just saw that. I don't think he's going to speak about that, but it seems like a potentially big story. AP says Department of Homeland Security said it's ending the collective bargaining agreement with the tens of thousands of frontline employees at the TSA. All right, still waiting. Maybe we can talk about it after Trump speaks. It is now 11:35. He was supposed to speak at 11. What is going to happen? Thank you, IndyCar. IndyCar says, it seems like there has not been a day that Trump has not talked to the press. He already had two things on his schedule today, though. He was already supposed to sign executive orders at 2:30, and at 3 p.m. he was already supposed to speak at the White House. Is it the White House Crypto Summit thing, whatever that is? But he was already going to be speaking at that. White House Digital Assets Summit. So those were already on his schedule. Real VIP says he is always late. Tectonic Passenger says busy dude. My anchor says transparent president. Kaylee N says he loves to cause fear. Probably something to make all of us worry more. Forza Blue NY says the man is a machine. Gary Patys, our viewer, thinks it's something big. This is from the Oval Office. CNN says he's speaking from the Oval Office. Was that on the schedule? Oh yeah, that is on schedule. I don't even have to try. I can see it. I can see it myself. I didn't notice it before. I actually showed it to you. This is from the Oval Office. You know, if I was in such a rush to get on the air because I just saw this I saw this right before it came up, right? So I had to rush to get on the air before I got on, I think right at 11 a.m. So in all the rush, I didn't really process that it said Oval Office. But it says it right there on the schedule. Jose Plays says maybe he'll be saying something in regards to Hamas, who he threatened a couple days ago with what he said was his last warning to give up all the hostages and the hostage bodies. Let me just make sure of something here. Let me make sure of something here. Make sure you can hear me. You're going to hear two of me for 2 seconds. Testing 1, 2, 3. Let me make sure of something here. Make sure you can hear me. All good. Sound check good. It is 11:39. He was supposed to speak at 11. Thank you, Jesse Irwin from Canada, for your support. Really appreciate it, Jesse Irwin. Thank you. Again, so there have been, about an hour ago, there were a couple of reports, apparently, that he was going to speak on the jobs report. But, there was a News Nation reporter who said that, who said that she had been told by a White House person that he was speaking on the jobs report. That was like an hour ago, as BNO News mentioned to me. Thank you, BNO News. And I guess they said CNBC had said it like an hour ago, but I haven't seen anything else. And again, I follow a lot of different politics reporters and White House reporters, and none of them have come out and said, oh, he's speaking about this. So I do think there's some uncertainty here. And also, as I mentioned, I don't understand why when a jobs report comes out that basically CNN says is like mixed and Wall Street Journal says missed expectations, but also offered reassurances, but had warning signs. That, I'm not an economic specialist, but that doesn't sound like a huge, big surprise either way. So I don't know why he'd be rushing to the Oval Office to speak about that. Because stock market is crashing, Elias Bargy says. Well, I mean, then he's really speaking about the markets. Then he's not really speaking about the jobs report. So I could certainly see him wanting to speak about the economy, but then it seems like that's the real purpose of what he's doing. And also, look, I mean, the downward movement recently in the markets has been widely attributed to the tariff policy and tariff uncertainty. Milo says could be about education department. Again, there's been reporting that the White House is going to issue an executive order to get rid of the education department, although it is widely anticipated there will be legal challenges to that. But he is already on the schedule today to sign executive orders at 2:30. So it doesn't make sense to me. And that's still on the schedule. So I don't know why they'd be doing a special announcement at 11 for something, or at noon for something that he's going to be, that for an executive order he could already sign at 12:30, at 2:30, at the regularly scheduled executive order time. New report from Reuters. Reuters reports, I don't think this is what he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be speaking about this. I just saw this pop up. Reuters reports the CDC is planning a large study into potential connections between vaccines and autism, despite extensive scientific research that has disproven or failed to find evidence of such links. Just passing that along. Any moment now, President Trump will be speaking from the Oval Office. RLF Captures thinks that Trump is waiting to pull viewers from The View. This was not on his schedule. It just got scheduled about an hour ago, but it was scheduled for 11 a.m. Well, it's now 11:44 a.m. Chris says, shocker, he is late. Xenial Guy, our viewer, thinks the speech is going to be about tariffs and sanctions on Russia. He did yesterday. President Trump did announce yesterday that most of the tariffs on Canada, I believe most of them on Canada and Mexico, were paused until April 2nd. Andy Crabtree says maybe it's to announce the $5,000 checks my neighbor is so convinced he is getting. Just Rhonda says, I am hearing and seeing rumblings it could be about the assassination report being released, but I have no knowledge or proof of that. That's what our viewer Just Rhonda says. Thanks, Just Rhonda and Andy Crabtree. AP on the jobs report says U.S. employers added a solid 151,000 jobs last month, but the outlook is cloudy as President Trump threatens a trade war, purges the federal workforce, and promises to deport millions of immigrants. The Labor Department reported today that hiring was up from a revised 125,000 in January, but economists had expected 160,000 new jobs last month. And the unemployment rate rose slightly to 4.1%. Yeah, again, it doesn't seem like this jobs report is some huge surprise either way from what I've read about it. Chris Bartels, our viewer, thinks there's a good chance it's about the attempts on his life and who is involved. Well, like you, I am waiting. It is now 11:46. No, he is supposed to speak about cryptocurrency at 3 p.m. on the schedule. Already on his schedule. The president delivers remarks at the White House Digital Asset Summit at 3 p.m. That has been on his schedule since yesterday. I don't know why, if he's already speaking at 3 p.m. at the White House, at the White House Digital Summit, why he would come on 3 hours before then and speak about crypto as well. Nobody in here thinks it's about the jobs report because look at the stock market. I mean, at the time this was announced, I think the Dow was down like 0.4% for the day. I mean, it's gone down during the last week or so, but so it could be about that. NASDAQ right now is down 1.35%. S&P 500 down 1%, 1.05%. Oh. Where is this? Hold on, I haven't even seen this. Donna Simmons says, Sky seems to think it might be sanctions on Russia. I don't think so. That's what Donna said. Trump had posted about Russia a little earlier today on his Truth Social, as we mentioned before. He said he's strongly considering. He said, based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions, and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. We're still waiting. Hang on one moment, guys. We're waiting here. All right, it is now 11:50. Back at 10:25, the White House suddenly said that Trump would be speaking at 11 from the Oval Office. It is now 11:50. Let me see. No, one of our viewers said maybe 11 tomorrow. No, it is 11 today. That was the schedule. I haven't seen an updated, they haven't sent out an updated schedule. Gordon Gott says, should I take my anxiety medication? One of our viewers said TST Trump Standard Time. That's what Diego Medina said. Flo Meyer thinks it's about Iran. Now, the White House just posted something on their social media saying America is back to work, where they talk about positive economics news. But I mean, they use the social media to post positive things once in a while, so I don't know that that has anything to do with this. Thanks to, hang a moment here, Andy Crabtree, thanks for your support, who brought up the possibility that Elon Musk could speak. I haven't heard that Elon Musk is speaking. Give me a moment here. Give me one moment here. So I got an interesting message from B&O, I'll say, which pointed out that, again, I don't know if this is true. I know the message is true. The message is true. But there was a White House pool reporter who said that he had heard that that this would not be, who said that this would be like a tape playback thing. So it's still not, it's a little confusing. I'm not even positive. We're going to see remarks from the Oval Office. Will it be live, or are they recording something with him? That I don't know.
Here we go. Foreign terrorist organizations.
Here it is.
Or otherwise law-breaking activities. So this executive order will direct your Department of Education and Department of the Treasury to basically bring about modifications to the public service loan forgiveness program in order to ensure that people who are engaged.
What's going on? Why is this playing? What is happening? Oh, hold on. No, hang on.
Get forgiveness of their student loans as they would be eligible for if they were working for the government or a normal nonprofit that's not violating the law.
All right. Any questions on that? Anybody have any questions? So we'll talk about the manufacturing turnaround, and it's been very early, but it's pretty significant. The numbers were much better, as you know, than projected by the media, and a little surprising actually how strong, how fast, because we have many companies are moving into our country. As you probably know, it's a statistic that everyone talks about, but nobody seems to have done much about. Since the beginning of NAFTA, there's been 90,000 plants and factories closed in this country. Think of that. 90,000 plants and factories have been closed in this country. Many of them have been car manufacturing plants. And that's a terrible statistic, and we'll be turning that around. You're going to see it already. We already have numerous that are being built or starting to be built, and numerous that were being built in other countries, and they stopped, and they're coming here now because of the tariffs. And that's a big deal. That's what you want to hear. During the last year, the Biden administration saw a loss of more than 110,000 manufacturing jobs, or 9,000 manufacturing jobs every single month. It averaged about 9,000 a month, 110,000 manufacturing jobs. During the first full month in office, we've not only stopped that manufacturing collapse, but we've begun to rapidly reverse it and get major gains. We created 10,000 manufacturing jobs in February alone. That hasn't happened in a long time. And these aren't government jobs, which actually we cut. These are private sector manufacturing jobs. So we gained all of those jobs, 10,000 jobs, and we barely started yet. That's a very unusual number. People are surprised by it. I'm even a little surprised. On auto jobs, we created almost 9,000 new jobs in the auto production field. And the reason for that is largely they think things are happening, so they're already geared up. In some cases, they had rooms in their plants, or they had empty plants that they were able to put into use quickly because they see, because of the tariffs, they don't want to be dealing with other places, and they don't want to go back and forth and around and through the borders and across Mexico border and Canada border and all that. They want to have the jobs in one location. And they've had space, and if they had space, they were able to create the jobs almost immediately. In some cases, they'll be building plants to take care of those jobs. So we created 9,000 new jobs already in the auto production, auto parts manufacturing. So we want the auto parts ideally, and I think from a simplicity standpoint too, to be built and made in the United States. It's in a single month. That all took place in a single month, 9,000 new auto jobs. You haven't heard that in a long time. After auto workers lost more than 27,000 auto jobs in the final year of Biden. These are also high-paying jobs. These are very prime jobs. The ISM Manufacturing Survey and the S&P Manufacturing Survey have also confirmed that our administration is presiding over a brand new domestic manufacturing boom after major collapse under Biden. It was a collapse. All he did is keep adding new government jobs, which are not the jobs you want. We're trying to shrink government and grow the private sector. That's what we've been doing. Under the final 2 years of Biden, 1 in every 4 jobs created in America was a government job. That's a tremendous percentage. But under the first full month of President Trump, which we haven't even gotten started yet, an incredible 93% of all job gains were in the private sector. So that statistic just came out. Big gains for native-born Americans
So this
for the first time in 15 months.
Your Department
The
of
job
Education,
gains for
Department of the Treasury,
native-born
to,
Americans, for American people, people
basically
born
bring
in
about
America,
modification.
exceeded job gains for migrant and foreign-born workers. This is the first time that's happened in more than 15 months. Employment for native-born workers went up by 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000. Now, you've heard the same stat where foreign workers were taking up all the jobs or almost all the jobs. In some cases, literally all of the jobs. And now it's 284,000 native-born jobs here, people born in our country, 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000. First time that's happened in a long time. So these are incredible numbers, and they're very early. I mean, we're here for 5 weeks, but we have been talking about it since the big win in November 5th. So a lot of these people, they listen to us speak and they say, well, I'm going to gear up, and they're gearing up. And so they've been gearing up. They've had a little time. It's not just 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks plus a few months. And they put it into effect pretty quickly. They have confidence that what I'm saying is going to happen. So with that, I'd like to ask a highly respected gentleman, Kevin Hassett. He's been with us for a long time, and he's been right about a lot. We had the greatest economy in history in the first term, and Kevin was a big part of it. So Kevin, could you maybe give it a little description, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Trump. I think that the three things that you emphasized during the campaign is that you wanted to create domestic, high-paying manufacturing jobs, that you wanted to end wasteful government spending and reduce the unproductive government workers, and in fact unleash them into the private economy where they could be more productive, and to create jobs for Americans. A lot of people said that if you deported illegals, the employment would go down because no Americans would take those jobs. And if you look, 280,000 American-born folks were hired, manufacturing jobs are going up, and this is just out of the expectation of your future policies, really, sir. It's in April when your Reciprocal Trade Act is expected to happen. The tax cuts haven't passed yet. And so people are clearly expecting the golden age. And if you want to forecast the future numbers, everybody, just keep in mind that President Trump has already gotten us $1.7 trillion in commitments of new factories. And those haven't even happened yet. Those aren't even in the numbers. And so I expect this is going to be a glimpse of a golden age to come, sir.
Thank you very much. One other thing, Canada, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of, but under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult to deal with, the Canadian representatives. 250% for dairy products, tariff. So where do you hear that? You don't hear that. They have a tremendously high tariff. Give you the exact numbers in a little while coming out, on lumber. So they sell us lumber. They have a tremendous tariff. They make it impossible for us to sell lumber or dairy products into Canada, but our numbers are a tiny fraction of that, almost non-existent. And what we're doing is freeing up our forests from the environmental nonsense that they put on them, where you can't cut down a tree. And we have to cut down trees in order to build the firewalls. And those trees are sold, but we're freeing it up on an emergency basis because Canada has been ripping us off for years on tariffs for lumber and for dairy products. 250%, nobody ever talks about that. 250% tariff, which is taking advantage of our farmers, so that's not going to happen anymore. They'll be met with the exact same tariff unless they drop it, and that's what reciprocal means. And we may do it as early as today, or we'll wait till Monday or Tuesday. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to charge the same thing. It's not fair. Never has been fair. And they've treated our farmers badly. Look, our country's been ripped off by everybody, and that stops now. I had it stopped in my first term, and we're going to really stop it now because this has been very unfair. Our country, from an economic standpoint, a financial standpoint, and a trade standpoint, has been absolutely ripped off by almost every country in the world. Canada, Mexico, and then you just go right down the line. India charges us massive tariffs, massive. You can't even sell anything into India. It's almost restrictive. It is restrictive. You know, we do very little business inside. They've agreed, by the way, they want to cut their tariffs way down now because somebody's finally exposing them for what they've done. And same thing with China, same thing with a lot of other countries. And the EU has been a terrible abuser of this country. I mean, the EU was formulated in order to take advantage of the United States, and they have taken it, but they're not taking advantage when I'm in charge. So sometimes you'll hear some negative things. It's always from outside countries. America will be very strong. And, you know, if I'm a foreign country, they're going to do fine. But they can't do like they used to do because we're going to bring back our business into this country. We need it from a job standpoint. We need it from even just a psychological standpoint. Think of it, 90,000 factories are gone since the beginning of NAFTA. So we're not going to have that, and we're going to see them build it back. Now we've already had 5 major automobile companies. First time you've heard this in a long time, since my first term actually, where we were really rocking and rolling, and then Biden came in and he stopped everything. Like such a stupid thing to do, not even a believable thing. But we have many auto plants now coming in. We have big chip plants. We have the biggest chip company in the world, most powerful, probably one of the most powerful companies in the world. Wouldn't you say, Kevin? And he's coming in and they're building one of the largest chip plants in the world. That'll be done in Arizona, mostly in Arizona. And that'll give us a big percentage. That one plant will give us a big percentage of the chip market, something we have very little of. You know, we used to have Intel, and Intel was run by a man named Andy Grove. And Andy Grove was a tough, smart guy. I used to read about him when I was a young man, and he did an incredible job. He really dominated the chip business. And then he died, and I guess they had a series of people that didn't know what the hell they were doing, and we gradually lost the chip business, and now it's almost exclusively in Taiwan. They stole it from us. They took it from us, and I don't blame them. I give them credit. I blame the people that were sitting in this seat because they allowed it to happen. We could have protected that so easily. But so we had the chip business, and now it's all in Taiwan, almost exclusive, a little bit in South Korea, but mostly in Taiwan. And it's very important. Everything you do, everything you touch is now about chips. The brake of a car, cars have chips all over the place. I was reading an article the other day where they talk about the brakes of a car are loaded up with chips. Who would think that a brake has a chip in it? But it's all about chips. So that was a big thing. And they'll be investing hundreds of billions of dollars in this country, and we'll be taking back a big, big portion of that industry. We have others coming in too. But a lot of car manufacturers are coming in, and they're coming in fast. And one of the reasons you see these numbers, and again, Kevin said it, and I said it a little bit, but the fact that they know I won the election, so after I was president-elect, they assumed that I was going to do what I said, because I do what I say. And so these numbers really reflect a lot of things that took place since November 5th, right? So, Kevin, thank you very much. Great job. Any questions?
Mr. President, how concerned are you that the large-scale federal government layoffs will weaken the labor market? How concerned are you?
The large-scale fentanyl what?
The federal government layoffs will impact the labor market, will weaken the labor market.
Oh. No, I think the labor market's going to be fantastic, but it's going to have high-paying manufacturing jobs as opposed to government jobs. We had too many people in government. You can't just do that. We had many, too many. This is for 40 years. You know, this isn't just now. This built up and got worse and worse, and they just hire more and more people. You look at Department of Education, it seems like so many buildings I ride by, it says Department of Education. They're all over the place. And we don't even want it. We want the education to be given by the states. It'll be much better. It'll move us to the top of the list from the bottom of the list, and actually save us money. But it's too important to even talk about them. It'll save us a lot of money, but we don't want that. We want education to be given. So you go to Iowa and Indiana and Idaho and all these places, they're so well run. They're going to be producing education that will be the equivalent of, like Denmark is one, Norway, Sweden. Actually, China is one of the better in terms of education, and so we can't blame size anymore. You know, China has 1.4 billion people, but they're very high on their list. The one thing we're doing well on We're number one on the list is cost per pupil. We spend more money than any other country in the world by far. So I jokingly say the one thing we do well on is the cost. We spend more money, and yet we're toward the bottom of the list. Yeah.
Mr. President, I want to ask you, the joint address, millions of Americans watched your joint address earlier this week where you warned that there could be a little disturbance that Americans could feel as a function of these taxes, these tariffs. How much disturbance are you willing to accept in the near term as a function of that? And to set expectations, how long should Americans expect things to cost a bit more?
Well, so far, Peter, there hasn't been very much because these numbers are coming out. We're here for just a little over 4 weeks. And these are fantastic numbers. I was watching some of the reports this morning. They were surprised. There could be some disturbance, a little bit of disturbance. I solved a little bit of that because I have respect for our auto companies, and I gave them a little bit of a 1-month reprieve because it was unfair, although I'm sure they'll take advantage of it. I see they're driving a lot of cars into the U.S. to try and avoid the tariffs, and they're taking advantage of it a little bit. But they called me, they asked me, they said, could they have a little bit of help? And I decided, they're American companies, USMCA, and I let them have that. But this really kicks in, the reciprocals, kicks in on, let's see, I guess the 2nd. And I wanted it to be the 1st so badly, just didn't want to be on April Fool's Day. So I made it the 2nd. That's going to cost a lot of money. That one day is going to cost a lot of money, but that's okay. But I don't see it. I don't see anything. I see good reports. I think we're going to have good numbers from the beginning. Now, globalists won't love this because this brings jobs back to America. So if they're coming back to America, maybe you'll lose some in other parts of the world. But the other parts of the world have done very well, and they'll continue to do very well. But I think the United States is going to be doing record business. We'll bring a lot of those 90,000 factories that have been lost over the last number of years. It's been, it's hard to believe. 90,000, think of what 90,000 is. 90,000 plants and factories are gone. We're going to bring back many of those plants and factories.
One day the tariffs are on, the next day they're off. Right now the markets, as you know well, prefer stability. Are you done going forward with the pauses and the carve-outs? Is that it for those?
There'll always be changes and adjustments, and you can't just, I could have, for instance, told the American car companies, no, I'm not going to give you anything, and then you wouldn't have had to say, well, they're getting a little extra. It's just a little bit of a 1-month reprieve. They're very happy about what's happening. They won't have to go across borders, and you see the zigzag, and you have a fender made in Canada, you have something else made in Mexico. We don't want that. We want it made here. But there'll always be some modifications. I mean, if you have a wall in front of you, sometimes you have to go around the wall instead of through it. But I think very little. I think very little. On occasion, if we can do something, we want to help companies. We want to help companies create jobs. So I could have left that, and you wouldn't have had a minor change. Instead, I was asked by the real majors, the big majors, if they could do this, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. I want you to produce a lot of jobs. And numerous of the people, actually all of the people I spoke to have already been, they're very much on the way to already doing it. That's why you have auto jobs increase. And the man, I don't know him, Sean Fain, I don't know him, and I did great, as you know, with the auto workers, with the Teamsters, with unions. I did fantastically well, best numbers ever by a Republican. And I have a lot of respect for those people. But Sean Fain, who I don't know, but wasn't a supporter, although the auto workers were big supporters. I watched him last night, and he said, Donald Trump is absolutely right on tariffs. He said, what he's doing on tariffs is an incredible thing. And it's about time somebody had the guts to do it, because we're going to save auto manufacturing. And I said to people when I was campaigning, you're going to have so many auto jobs, you're not going to believe what's going to happen. We're going to load up Michigan. I won the state of Michigan, as you know. And part of the reason I won it was I got a lot of auto workers that voted for me, Detroit, etc. But I think people are going to be very surprised. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned in your remarks chips manufacturing, how a significant percentage is now in Taiwan. You also mentioned it in your address to Congress, and you called on Congress to overturn the CHIPS Act, which had bipartisan support in the last Congress. Why would you like to see this particular law overturned, Mr. President?
Because it's hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's just a waste of money. Now, some people have already taken the money and used it. Actually, it's very hard to qualify. because they go by race, they go by gender, they go by all sorts of things. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. You won't be able to find those people. So I don't even think anybody can qualify. They have so many different categories in order to qualify. You have to have so many of a certain race, a certain gender, a certain this, a certain, and I don't think they can qualify, but if they take the money, they better qualify because they'll be watching them. But it's a tremendous waste of money. I didn't give the greatest chip company in the world, one of the greatest companies, I didn't give them 10 cents. They came here because of tariffs, because they didn't want to pay the tariffs. And they also came here because they like the results of the election, because they know that I'm very pro-business and pro-jobs. I mean, I'm pro-business, not for business sake. I'm pro-business because of jobs, because business is producing the jobs. Okay?
On Russia, if I may, President Putin is bombing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you still believe him when he tells you that he wants peace?
Yeah, no, I believe him. I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and Ukraine. I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards. As you know, we're meeting in Saudi Arabia on sometime next week, early. And we're talking, I find that in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. I mean, they're bombing the hell out of them right now. And I put a statement in, a very strong statement. Can't do that. You can't do that.
Mr. President,
We're trying to help them. And Ukraine has to get on the ball and get a job done. Michael, could you come up here? I see Michael back there. Good, I'm glad. He's traveling all over the world. I just saw him come in the door. Could you give a little definition of what's going on, please?
Sure. Well, the president has been crystal clear, and he's been clear to all sides. The fighting has to stop. Both sides need to get to the table. We had a good engagement. Both leaders have said only President Trump could do so, and only he has been able to do so. We had an initial engagement with the Russians. The Ukrainians had a great opportunity to bind our economies together through that mineral deal. Unfortunately, that didn't go so well, but we think we're going to get things back on track. Secretary Rubio, myself and Ukrainian delegation will be meeting in Saudi Arabia next week to get these talks back on track, get a ceasefire in place, and drive peace home under President Trump's leadership.
You put out
I think both parties want to settle. I think if I wasn't president, this war would have had no chance of settlement, zero chance. But I think we're going to get it settled and stopped. We got to stop. They're losing on average 2,000 soldiers a week. That's a lot of soldiers. Do you agree, Peter?
It's a lot of soldiers on both sides, I agree. Do you, Mr. President, think that Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of the U.S. pause right now on intelligence and military aid to Ukraine?
No, I actually think he's doing what anybody else would do. I think he wants to get it stopped and settled, and I think he's hitting them harder than he's been hitting them. And I think probably anybody in that position would be doing that right now. He wants to get it ended, and I think Ukraine wants to get it ended, but I don't see, it's crazy. They're taking tremendous punishment. I don't quite get it, but I suspect, Michael, he probably wants to get it ended.
He does, Mr. President. The Russians are taking incredible losses on the front. As the president has
They both
said,
are.
this is a meat grinder of people, of material, of national treasure, and no one else has any solutions except to let this war continue forever. But I'll add, the president has had multiple conversations and a visit from President Macron of France, Prime Minister Starmer of the United Kingdom. We have the NATO Secretary General coming next week. We have this meeting with the Ukrainians. We've had it with the Russians. All of this in the president's first month in his leadership. We will engage in the shuttle diplomacy, and we will continue to use his leadership and what leverage we have to get both sides of the peace table. It's not going to be easy, but President Trump...
This war should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president, but it did happen. So a lot of other things shouldn't have happened, too. We shouldn't have 21 million people pouring into our country through open borders, many of whom are criminals, very bad criminals, including murderers, thousands of murderers. Many killed, far more than one person, and they're roaming our streets. But Tom Holman and Kristi Noem are doing an incredible job, and we're getting them out of here. And we'll get them out. We'll get them all out. But all these things shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't have inflation. We shouldn't have had this horrible inflation where the prices have gone up. Look at eggs. So we're doing a good job. We're doing a good
Mr.
job.
President, in regards to the pause on military assistance to Ukraine, you put out on your social media post today that Russia is pounding Ukraine.
That's right.
Why not provide Ukraine with air defenses? And what happens, Mr. President, when Ukraine runs out of the Patriot missile batteries?
Good question. Because I have to know that they want to settle. I don't know that they want to settle. If they don't want to settle, we're out of there because we want them to settle. And I'm doing it to stop death, more important than anything else. Secondarily, way down the line is the money. So we're in for $350 billion, and Europe is in for $100 billion. They should be in for the same or more than us. And, you know, I watched over the last week or so what's going on in Europe. This thing could end up in World War III if we don't get it settled. This could really end up in a World War III. We got to get it settled.
So on Iran, how confident are you that the Iranians will negotiate with you? And is Israel on board with this outrage?
Yeah, I saw the hostages the other day. They came in, people that were not young, some young and some older, much older. And they gave, it was hard for them to do it actually. They gave statements as to what happened. I was asking, what happened? How was it? I said, did you see anybody in there that was kind, like out of the hundreds of people that you were seeing, Hamas? Did some of them wink at you and say, don't worry, you're going to be okay, or give you a piece of bread, or no? I said, were there any people that were like kind? I was shocked. The answer was nobody. There was nobody. Just the opposite. They'd be slapped and punched. One man broke his ribs. He couldn't breathe for a month. It was brutal. I was so surprised. Could you think there'd be a couple of people that would be kind, that would say, you're going to be okay, but they had none of that. It's pretty amazing. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. President.
He's a kind person.
Well, according to
although not to Zelensky, he wasn't.
Well, you know what, that's another
But to Trump, he's been good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Nice tie, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I like yours too.
Two questions. One on peace. Why don't you think any other European countries are offering a peace deal? It seems like no one's come to the table for peace except for you.
Yeah. It's a very good question. Sometimes questions aren't answerable. They're in a very unusual position. They don't know how to end the war. I think I do know how to end the war. Despite the Russia hoax, I've always had a good relationship with Putin. And, you know, he wants to end the war. He wants to end it. And I think he's going to be more generous than he has to be. And that's pretty good. That means a lot of good things. Because frankly, you could have made a great deal if this war never started, you could have made a great deal. I don't know that anything would have had to be given up. This was not a war that was going to start, Brian. And it didn't start. For 4 years, somebody said, well, how do we know that? Well, for 4 years, it didn't start. I used to speak to Vladimir about it. I used to speak to him about it at length. It was the apple of his eye, but there was no way he was going in. And he knew, there were going to be consequences. But it did start. I mean, think of what happened. Inflation, you have the war with Ukraine and Russia, that wouldn't have happened. October 7th would have never happened. Israel, they had no money. Iran had no money. Iran was stone cold broke, and now they have a lot of money. But then that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran. What's going to happen with Iran? And there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020. They were all set to make a deal. And then when I lost, they saw this person who's a stupid person, very stupid person. And they said, let's not make a deal. And they were right. He took the sanctions off. They became rich under Biden. They went from having no money to having $300 billion. All in a short period. It's oil. Oil builds up fast. It's a nice living if you have a nice oil well. And they do. They have a lot of nice oil wells, right? So anyway, it's going to be a big thing. It's an interesting time in the history of the world. But we have a situation with Iran that something's going to happen very soon. Very, very soon. You'll be talking about that pretty soon, I guess. And hopefully we can have a peace deal. You know, I'm not speaking out of strength or weakness. I'm just saying I'd rather see a peace deal than the other. But the other will solve the problem.
Mr. President, your allies are calling on you to pardon Derek Chauvin. Are you considering pardoning Derek Chauvin?
No, I haven't even heard about it. No.
Mr. President, on peace.
I haven't heard that.
In the first term, you may recall, I broke the news that you were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And the reason for that was the work that you led on the Abraham Accords. I spoke yesterday with the member of parliament, the Norwegian parliament, that nominated you. And he said what the Nobel Committee is looking for from you, Mr. President, is security guarantees for Ukraine. Is that a possibility, Mr. President?
So, before I even think about that, I want to settle the war, get it finished. Because if I'm not here, nobody's going to settle it. And President Macron has said that, and everybody said that, the prime ministers and presidents. We're pushing very hard. That's all I'm thinking about now. As far as the question about security later, that's the easy part. The hard part is getting it settled. We got to get them. We're losing 2,000 human beings every week. More than that, actually. 2,000 nice, young, although they're getting older because they're drafting much older now. In the case of one country, much older, because a lot of the young people have been killed. It's very sad, and I'd like to see if I could stop that. And I'd like to also see if we could stop making these massive payments from the United States. I mean, Biden gave away money like it was water, with no anything, got nothing for it. Europe did it in the form of a loan. They get their money back, we don't. So that's how we came up with the rare earth deal. But we started, behind the 8 ball. He could have gone to Europe. He could have said, "Come on, you got to put up money with us. You got to put up money with us." But he never did that. They just kept handing money out because he was grossly incompetent. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Well, look, it was basically, so we came on the air because the White House announced at 10:25 a surprise announcement that President Trump was going to be making remarks from the White House at 11. This was unplanned. So, the president's going to make unscheduled remarks from the Oval Office on short notice. Then that's normally something I'm going to cover. Basically, it was... he came on the air, he said the economy is doing well, and then he took questions for a half an hour. So, we got to see him take questions. You got to hear him speak about the economy. I'm sorry if you were expecting some sort of bigger announcement. I can't control what they're going to announce. I will say in the remarks, something that stood out to me, he did say that with Iran, you'll be hearing a lot about that pretty soon. So he did seem to suggest that something's going to happen with Iran one way or the other. I guess the suggestion is, the implication seems to be either there'll be a deal with them or there might be some military action against them because they're close to getting a nuclear weapon or something. That's what the implication. He didn't say that explicitly. That's kind of what I took from it. But, but he did say that, he said some interesting days ahead with Iran. He said, we're down to the final moments with Iran. He did say that. We're down to the final moments. Les says, I was expecting something more. I don't... It was certainly not a big announcement in the big scheme of things. No huge policy announcement or anything like that. I did notice I had CNN on in the background. I can't watch 10 channels at once. CNN was on in the background. And before we came on the air, they were saying Trump about to speak to the from the Oval Office, and they didn't even run it. They didn't even run it. I don't know. It's possible other channels didn't either. I don't even know that that was live. It's possible that was recorded. I think it might have been. The White House, what they'll do sometimes is he will speak at the White House and they'll record it. And as soon as it's done, they'll put out the recording. That's like what they do when Keir Starmer or President Macron or President Zelensky visits the Oval Office. They'll record that session in the Oval Office and then they'll broadcast it. I think what probably happened, if I had to guess, is that started at 11, and as soon as it was done, they just pushed it out. That's what it seemed to me. I don't know for sure, but that was from today, and I believe it was, if I had to guess, it probably started at 11. So I believe it just happened. But again, Ernest Cornell says it was on MSNBC, and I would assume Fox ran it. And again, this was just announced, so that would be my assumption. Let me take some more comments from you guys. Vivian Yurton thought it was the same old stuff. Yeah, I have a TV, so I'll just keep the TV on one of the networks and I switch up which one it is. I'll just, while we're broadcasting, I just have it on. Because sometimes stuff just pops up on there. Sometimes it's on Fox, sometimes it's on CNN, sometimes it's on BBC, sometimes it's on something else. One of our viewers said, Paul thought Trump just announced an impending attack on Iran, huge news. Well, he didn't say that, but he did seem to suggest that. Again, he said things like, some interesting days ahead, we're down to the final moments on Iran, can't let them have a nuclear weapon. You'll be talking a lot about that pretty soon. Maybe one of our viewers wants me to replay the Iran segment. Oh, let me just show you. This is a White House pool report about what he said at the beginning, really quick. I'll just read this to you. So the White House pool report says, as the president began, he read from a piece of paper and cited some economic data. He said the 10,000 jobs gain in manufacturing, which he claimed happened, came largely in the auto industry. He said, so we created 9,000 new jobs already in the auto production, auto parts manufacturing. It did seem like maybe this was put on the schedule because he wanted to talk about the economy being good because the stock market has not been doing well lately. Maybe. I just saw from CNBC, Powell says Fed is awaiting greater clarity on Trump policies before making next move on interest rates. I just saw that right now. Do we have him speaking? Do I have that? Hey, do you want to hear the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell? He's speaking right now. Let me throw this on the screen. Hold on, I'm throwing it on the screen for you. It's Jerome Powell, Fed chairman. Hold on, I'm gonna put it on the screen and put a. Hold on, I don't know. Give me a second. Give me a moment. Give me a moment.
See this in both market and survey-based measures, and survey respondents, both consumers and businesses, are mentioning tariffs as a driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain stable and consistent with our 2% inflation goal. Looking ahead, the new administration is in the process of implementing significant policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. It is the net effect of these policy changes that will matter for the economy and for the path of monetary policy. While there have been recent developments in some of these areas, especially trade policy, uncertainty around the changes and their likely effects remains high. As we parse the incoming information, we are focused on separating the signal from the noise as the outlook evolves. We do not need to be in a hurry, and we are well positioned to wait for greater clarity. Policy is not on a preset course. If the economy remains strong but inflation does not continue to move sustainably toward 2%, we can maintain policy restraint for longer. If the labor market were to weaken unexpectedly or inflation were to fall more quickly than anticipated, we can ease policy accordingly. Our current policy stance is well positioned to deal with the risks and uncertainties that we face in pursuing both sides of our mandate. Before I conclude, I'll note that at our last FOMC meeting, we began our second 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We will consider changes to our consensus statement and to our communications as part of this review. The consensus statement articulates our framework for the conduct of monetary policy in pursuit of our statutory goals. We will consider the lessons of the past 5 years and adapt our approach where appropriate to best serve the American people to whom we are accountable. The 2% longer run inflation goal will be retained and is not a focus of the review. This public review will be familiar to those who followed our process 5 years ago. We will hold outreach events around the country involving a range of parties, including Fed Listens events. We're open to new ideas and critical feedback. We will host a research conference in Washington in May. Our intent is to wrap up the review by late summer. Thank you very much. I look forward to your questions, Danielle.
All right. So anyways,
Right. Thanks for that. Before we get into
wait
the
1 second.
current
Hold on 1
conjuncture,
second. Hang on.
Is there anything more you can share about where you think the framework is going to land? It was nice to hear the parameters that you laid out, but is there anything more that you can say beyond what you just?
Sure. So I said there are two things really. There's changes to the consensus statement, and they're looking at really our post-meeting communications. We're going to look at those two things a lot. And as it relates to the consensus statement, which is also known as the Statement on Longer Run Goals and Monetary Policy, therefore it needed a shorter name, we are going to be looking a lot at the changes that we made in 2020. So if you go.
All right. So anyways, I wanted to just go to that for a second. So I didn't know he was speaking and I missed the beginning, but CNBC says the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says the Fed is waiting on greater clarity on Trump policies before making next move on interest rates. Okay. And hang on a moment here. Where is this here? And he said, uncertainty around the White House policy changes and their likely effects remains high. All right, so I wanted to mention that. And let me take a few more comments about what Trump said. Oh, somebody requested that we show you again what with Iran. That was interesting when he talked about Iran. Let's quickly look at his remarks on Iran during his unscheduled remarks today from the Oval Office, which ended up being basically a few minutes on him saying the good things about the economy and then taking questions for like a half hour or maybe 20 minutes or so. So hang on, let me just find
I know.
the Iran thing.
Have a fender made in tariffs. This is certain, that we're trying to help them back on track. Bill, so we're doing, good question, because I have to know that they want to settle, than anything else. You're gonna be okay, but think any other European position, nuclear weapon.
I found it. Here is the...
That means a lot of good things, because frankly, you could have made a great deal if this war, a lot of good stuff about did still happen. All broke, but and that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran.
I'm finding the Iran remarks.
Stone Cold broke, and now they have a. Well, how do we know that? Well, for 4 years it didn't start. I used to speak to Vladimir about it.
Okay, here is the remarks on Iran. So this is moments ago. Well, I'll say earlier. This was during the Q&A in the White House. I think I have it just about queued up. He starts going into it in a second.
Speak to him about it at length. It was the apple of his eye, but there was no way he was going in. And he knew, there were going to be consequences. But it did start. I mean, think of what happened. Inflation, you have the war with Ukraine and Russia, that wouldn't have happened. October 7th would have never happened. Israel, they had no money. Iran had no money. Iran was stone cold broke, and now they have a lot of money. But and that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran. What's going to happen with Iran? And there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020. They were all set to make a deal. And then when I lost, they saw this person who's a stupid person, very stupid person. And they said, let's not make a deal. And they were right. He took the sanctions off. They became rich under Biden. They went from having no money to having $300 billion. All in a short period. It's oil. Oil builds up fast. It's a nice living if you have a nice oil well. And they do. They have a lot of nice oil wells, right? So anyway, it's going to be a big thing. It's an interesting time in the history of the world. But we have a situation with Iran that something's going to happen very soon. Very, very soon. You'll be talking about that pretty soon, I guess. And hopefully we can have a peace deal. You know, I'm not speaking out of strength or weakness. I'm just saying I'd rather see a peace deal than the other. But the other will solve the problem.
Mr. President, your allies say.
So those are some interesting remarks on Iran from the president, saying there will be a peace deal or the other. And he said the other would solve the problem. I assume the other is some sort of military strike on Iran with Israel. That'd be my assumption. All right, we'll take a few more comments here. Again, you know, I apologize if you were expecting some bigger announcement. You know, I don't, in a situation like this, I can't tell. The White House comes out, says he's making unplanned remarks from the Oval Office. I'm going to cover that when that happens, but I can't tell what the announcement's going to be, so I don't think we heard much very big. Yeah, there was an interesting thing he said. I thought I saw this. Jennifer Jacobs said he might do reciprocal tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy products as soon as today. But he had been saying that reciprocal tariffs were coming up April 2nd. That's what he keeps saying. On Canadian lumber and dairy products. But just yesterday, again, he removed most of the tariffs from Mexico and Canada for a month. Well, we'll have to see what happens with that. He's going to speak on crypto. Yeah, I don't know if I'll cover that. We'll see. President Trump is supposed to speak at the White House, what's it called? The White House, White House Digital Assets Summit. Oh, you know what, actually? Here's what's going to happen. So I was already going to come on the air because there's a Gene Hackman death investigation press conference at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And then President Trump was supposed to, now I'm guessing it won't start on time. President Trump was supposed to speak about crypto at 3 p.m. So what I was originally going to do today, before this happened, is I was going to come on the air and cover President Trump's remarks about crypto and also in the same stream, the Gene Hackman investigation press conference. So maybe we'll come on the air a little later and cover both of those things. That's what I think we might do, is cover both of those things. And they might be happening around the same time. So we might have to show one and then show the other. You know what? I'd like to show you, I'd like to go back that part about the new tariffs possibly on Canada. Can we find that part here? I'd like to show you that again. Hang on, I'm going to find the Canada remarks.
We barely started yet. That's a very unusual and made in the United States.
Where was that?
After major collapse under Biden, about a night it just came out. Big gains for
I have to find the exact moment he mentions it.
I'd like to ask a highly respected Biden, they just kept tremendous into Canada.
Oh,
but
hold on.
Our numbers are going to spring up our forests from the in order to build the fire basis because dairy products.
I found it. I found the Canada thing, I think. All right, let me show you the remarks that Trump made about Canada threatening possible new tariffs soon.
You don't hear that. They have dairy products under Biden. You know about that. And when Canada, you know.
All right, here is what Trump said a short while ago about Canada. Here it is.
Thank you very much. One other thing, in Canada, you know, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of, but under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult to deal with, the Canadian representatives. 250% for dairy products, tariff. So where do you hear that? You don't hear that. They have a tremendously high tariff. Give you the exact numbers in a little while coming out on lumber. So they sell us lumber. They have a tremendous tariff. They make it impossible for us to sell lumber or dairy products into Canada, but our numbers are a tiny fraction of that, almost non-existent. And what we're doing is freeing up our forests from the environmental nonsense that they put on them, where you can't cut down a tree. And we have to cut down trees in order to build the firewalls. And those trees are sold, but we're freeing it up on an emergency basis because Canada has been ripping us off for years on tariffs for lumber and for dairy products. 250%, nobody ever talks about that. 250% tariff, which is taking advantage of our farmers, so that's not gonna happen anymore. They'll be met with the exact same tariff unless they drop it. And that's what reciprocal means. And we may do it as early as today, or we'll wait till Monday or Tuesday. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to charge the same thing. It's not fair. Never has been fair. And they've treated our farmers badly. Look, our country's been ripped off by everybody. And that stops now. I had it stopped in my first term. And we're going to really stop it now because this has been very unfair. Our country, from an economic standpoint, and financial standpoint, and a trade standpoint, has been absolutely ripped off by almost every country in the world. Canada, Mexico, and then you just go right down the line. India charges us massive tariffs, massive. You can't even sell anything into India.
All right, so you heard him say that there might be new reciprocal tariffs on Canadian dairy and lumber as soon as today. As soon as today. I know Bloomberg was reporting on that too. Bloomberg has a story. Trump says he may hit Canada with dairy and lumber tariffs soon. New threat comes day after he offered relief for some goods. President Trump said he may implement reciprocal tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy products as soon as today. All right, so we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with that. But then he said something like, if not today, then Monday or Tuesday, I think he said. Something like that. So he implied that if it's not today, it's going to be soon. But he had originally said that the reciprocal tariffs were going to be, all the reciprocal tariffs were going to be on April 2nd. By the way, some of our viewers are claiming that there aren't Canadian tariffs on American lumber. I don't know if what he said about existing tariffs, if his claims about Canadian tariffs on American milk and lumber are true. Hang on a moment here. Hang on one moment. Thank you, by the way. A quick thanks to for your support. Thank you to Samantha, our new member. Mitchell Pilot, thank you. Mitchell Pilot says he really likes the word reciprocal. Thank you, A-Rod. Thank you, Beverly Hassel. Free Air. John, thank you for your support. Sean, thanks for your support. Leon Yoder, thanks for your support. Leon thinks that with his policy, it looks like Leon thinks with his policy towards Ukraine. Leon says, our viewer, no, that's not Leon. Leon said something different. Leon says the only thing that matters right now is that Russia has nukes and Ukraine doesn't. That's it. Your feelings are irrelevant. People think war is supposed to be about what's fair or who started it. That's from our viewer, Leon Yoder. Thank you, Leon, for your support. Thank you, Kender, for your support. And a terrible Tyler. And Kender. And 7-Inch Destroyer, who says the $350 billion is a lie. Why doesn't anyone correct him? Yeah, just to be clear, hold on a second here. So, for example, Euronews had an article from a few days ago where they said that according to the U.S. federal government sources, Congress has passed 5 supplemental appropriation acts since the Ukraine invasion by Russia, allocating $174 billion in funds for Ukraine. Another U.S. government tracker puts the headline sum slightly higher at $182 billion. And they say of this $182 billion pot, $83 billion has been dispersed. So they say they believe that he is exaggerating the amount of money given to Ukraine. Also, BBC had an article recently where they said Trump claims that the U.S. has given $350 billion to Ukraine, but BBC can find no evidence to back that up. There are different calculations on the spending, and which suggest a figure of around $182 billion. Appropriated. Anyway, so that's what I'll let you research more if you want to, but that's what our viewer 7-inch destroyer was talking about. Thank you, Shaz, too, for your support. Kratus Smith, Dina Soul, Lidwine Elizabeth, Zabine, Andy Crabtree, Dan Damin, Caitlin Price, Yul Yang, Nick Swanson. Sorry, I'm behind on my thank yous. Just Rhonda, Mika Well, Knox Corvus, Crypto King, Wizzy J Flunk, Jesse Irwin, ST. Sorry to be so behind on my thank yous. I got too far behind on this today. It's my bad. Got a little hectic when we were waiting for him to speak. Missy Miss, Chat Always Wins. Thanks for your support. And also Indy19XX on Twitch, iCregula, Siennabit, Pixel Mixer, Guy from the 207, Qbat, Jazzy Renee, thanks for your support on Twitch. I'll take a few more comments here. But maybe we'll do coverage a little later on of his remarks on crypto and the Gene Hackman update press conference. Oh, I did want to mention this. The measles outbreak, I've seen some reports on this, for example, BNO News, I think I first heard it from them. The measles outbreak continues to grow. In the Texas and New Mexico, measles outbreak continues to grow. For example, there are now 30 cases in New Mexico, all of them in Lee County, adjacent to Gaines County, Texas, where more than 100 cases have been reported and an unvaccinated child died. The increase in the reported cases and also in Texas the number is higher too. The increase in the reported cases comes a day after a deceased resident of New Mexico tested positive for measles, marking the second measles-related death in the United States in more than a decade, although we don't know what the cause of death for that was. The cause of death is still under investigation in that death. And in Texas, the number of cases now is here. I'll show you. Where is it here? Uh, 198. The Texas Department of State Health Services is reporting an outbreak of measles. At this time, 198 cases have been identified since late January. 23 patients have been hospitalized. There's been one fatality in a school-aged child who lives in the outbreak area. The child was not vaccinated and had no unknown underlying conditions. Additional cases are likely to occur due to the highly contagious nature of this disease. Gaines County has 137 cases. Terry County, 29. And of all of the cases, 5 of them are known to be vaccinated, 80 not vaccinated, 113 unknown status. So that number, so between Texas and New Mexico, it's now at 228 cases. All right, so I wanted to mention that because that came out since we've been on the air. Okay, so you know, if the news, if there's big news coming out on that, we could do another stream on that as well. All right. Any final thoughts people have on the Trump remarks as we get closer to wrapping up this live stream? I'd like to take a few more comments on the Trump remarks if people have thoughts. If you missed it, we showed the White House suddenly at 10:25 said Trump would be making unscheduled remarks from the Oval Office at 11. At about noon, they started showing a video of him in the Oval Office, which I think might have been recorded maybe around 11. I think it maybe was recorded today, where he said positive things to start out about the economy and then took questions for about 15, 20 minutes. So again, no real big announcement. Didn't know what it was going to be about. Let's see here. Can you fact check the lumber tariffs thing he said? I can look real quick and see if I can find something real quick. Again, President Trump today threatened Canada with new reciprocal tariffs on milk and lumber as soon as today. Let's see here. I'm trying to look here. There is an article from a day ago by AFP that says that where is it here? Real quick. Where is it here? That says they talked to an international trade expert who told them that with dairy, Canada has supply management regulations for dairy, meaning that after an import quota has been reached for a specific exporter, they are charged a much deeper fee. These measures are allowed under the USMCA. That is the trade agreement that was signed under the Trump administration, I think in 2020, that replaced NAFTA. Again, I don't know the specifics on that. AFP said yesterday Trump has referenced a Canadian 2,270% tariff on milk for years without context. Anyways, I don't want to get into this all right now, so I'd have to do some more research on this about Trump's claim about tariffs, about Canada's tariffs on dairy and lumber. Anyways, we'll see if in today or in the coming days he puts new tariffs on Canada for lumber and dairy after yesterday removing many of them for a month. Tariffs on Canada. Okay, thank you, by the way, to Kim C. and also Micah Cernkovich. Was there an article about Iran acquiring enough material to manufacture several warheads? Maybe he was referring to that situation briefing. I don't know. I have not personally heard some kind of... I mean, there's periodically reports about Iran nuclear material. I'm not aware of some one article that was recent that made a big splash. I know 4 days ago, here, like there's this. Again, I don't know if this has anything to do with what he was talking about, but there's an article a short while ago which said, hold on, I'll show you real quick. I'm just pulling it up here. Hang on a moment. If I can do this, where did it go? Sorry, I'm just pulling up this article. Thanks for your patience. I would if this search thing worked. There was an article from the Washington Post a week ago. There's other articles too. The Washington Post reported a week ago that according to a person familiar with a report prepared for next week's meeting of the IAEA Board of Governors, Iran has substantially expanded production of highly enriched uranium. Also, there were some other reports that came out recently. Again, I'm not going to get into all this in detail now, where, for example, AP had a report on February 26, Iran accelerates production of near weapons-grade uranium, IAEA says. So, and maybe there were other reports more recently, too. Those are a couple of recent ones. The Washington Post had one, Iran boosts stockpile of near weapons-grade uranium. Anyways, thank you to Micah Cernkovich, also Multi-Corker, for your support. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I think what we're going to do is this. I think we are going to wrap up this stream, and then at 4 p.m. Eastern, there is a Gene Hackman update about the Gene Hackman investigation from the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. So we're going to... Isn't it Santa Fe County? I believe it's Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. And also, Trump is supposed to be speaking about crypto around 3 p.m. So maybe we'll do a stream where we cover both of those things. Okay? That's my thought right now. That is my thought right now. Okay, so, but I'm going to start wrapping this up. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch President Trump's unscheduled remarks from the Oval Office. I think it was not as big of there was no real big announcement like, we thought maybe it was going to be because it was unplanned remarks. But what can we do? We cover it. We got to see him answer some questions and talk about the economy. All right, so, but we'll definitely be back to cover the Gene Hackman thing and maybe Trump's crypto remarks in the same stream. Oh, thanks, Michael Cernkovich. I appreciate that. Micah Cernkovich. Thank you. So I really appreciate you joining the stream. Come back and join us a couple hours for the next stream. Let me get off the air right now. But thank you for watching. Also, thanks for letting me read your comments on the air and for chatting and sending me updates. Thanks, B&O, for sending me updates as well, and B&O News. And also, by the way, Trucker Jim, our viewer, says Trump will destroy the world economy if he keeps going with the tariffs. Also, Jarrett Nash says, look at tariffs and duties on lumber going into Canada. I can't do that at the moment. I got to end the stream, but maybe next time we cover this topic, Jarrett Nash. Thank you. Hey, subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. Also, make sure you turn the notifications on so you find out when we're going live, because big news can happen at any time, and I don't know in advance when we're going to be coming on to do our various streams. Today I know in the afternoon we'll be coming on, but usually I don't. So turn on the notifications. We have a notification system. It's free. It works really great. You get sent a notification whenever we go live. So the mods will post a link to sign up to the notifications in the chat. You can also find that link to sign up for the notifications in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook. Also, I will post updates when I'm not on the air on my X account, @Lookner on X. Follow me over there, @Lookner on X, for breaking news updates. And thanks so much to our moderators for being here today. I really appreciate it. Beth Mythical, Janet B., and Ruth Krafasi over on YouTube. And BZ, thank you. We could not have chat rooms without our moderators. Thank you so much, moderators. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, over on Twitch. Big Ball of Yarn, Matthew Kohai, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev, and on Facebook. Our moderators over there, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley. Thank you so much to all of our moderators. Thanks so much to everybody who donated. So nice of you guys. I really appreciate it. That's what keeps this channel on the air. So thank you so much for your support. Hopefully I thanked everybody. Oh, I think I missed somebody. Hold on a moment. Thank you to Johnny Krosky. Johnny Krosky, thanks so much for your support, Johnny. I hope you're still watching. I got delayed thanking you. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you so much for your support. Also, another good way to find out when we're live, follow us on X, @AgendaFreeTV. I always post there before we go live, @AgendaFreeTV on X. Also, we do have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air, the Discord chat. Check out the Discord chat. It's free. It's the same link as the notifications. So check out the chat. And thanks to our Discord mods for all you do as well. A quick reminder, I really appreciate Discord mods. Real quick reminder, if you watch us on YouTube, I'd suggest turning on the YouTube notifications. But to do that, what you have to do is, once you subscribe on YouTube, then you have to click the notifications bell and choose all notifications. So make sure you have that done on YouTube if you subscribe on YouTube. Let's see. Hey, big thanks to our Facebook subscribers for supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Like Eve Richards and Lou Green, Rita Evans Lang, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Robert Rial II, Michael Clayton, Erin Van S. Thank you. Sharon Klassen Gosselin, thanks for subscribing. And all of our other subscribers on Facebook, thank you. I appreciate it. Also on Twitch, our subscribers there like Wall Street Shaggy, Zatonim, Massachusetts Guy, Matthew Kohai 3, Gina Pina, thank you. Integrity Farmer Bob, Rocky Coast, Selden Neymar, Alperer, thank you. Threat 011, thanks for subscribing on Twitch. And Bogan 04, thank you. And all of our other Twitch subscribers and our YouTube members like Wickedest Witch, UV Lightning, Crypto King, Wildflower, Rain Tarrant, Truth WSYF, Evelyn V, Firestar, Evelyn in Maine, William Cromer, CAC 813, Ellen Zen, and Confidence in God, Rebecca Falsetto, and who else over there? DG, Crispy, all of our other YouTube members. Thank you so much for being members. Oh, I missed one over here. Hold on. Ron Dykeman, Jens Crunchy Vax, JK Cinar, Sunshine in Arizona, Giovanna DiStefano, Confidence in God, Dean R. Apostolo, Subroutine 403, Jeannie P, Voyage, all of our other, DeAndre, NY Committee, Firestar, thanks for being thanks for being YouTube members. All right, I got to wrap this up, take a little break, but planning on covering back in a couple hours to cover the Gene Hackman press conference and maybe also Trump's remarks on crypto. So thank you for joining me for the unplanned, unscheduled remarks by Trump from the Oval Office. I'm sorry if you were expecting a bigger announcement. I can't control what the announcements are going to be. This is the first time this presidency that he has done something like this that I remember, where they just all of a sudden schedule remarks from the Oval Office a half hour beforehand. So I didn't know what it was going to be, but we got to see him speak and answer some questions. That is it for right now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.